Hey everyone, welcome back to the Poke Table Podcast. This is another episode where we're going to dive into the last week's news about Pokemon as well as our Pokemon businesses. We're joined by a guest today. I'll leave it up to Alex to introduce them.
Yeah, so we're joined by Kent Corsbie of the Corsbie Gaming. He's actually been on our podcast before. His business centers around buying singles. He's been vendors at events. So Kent, do you want to introduce yourself and say hi to the viewers?
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, we're excited to have you. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment for next video. We're going to go dive into some fan questions, just anything you're curious about Pokemon businesses, Pokemon TCG, the market in general, anything like that. So please be sure to do that. Without further ado, I think we can dive into sort of the news for last week, yeah?
Yeah, no, let's do it. The first thing I want to talk about is, we're seeing a lot of reprints of Stellar Crown, which is interesting. Because there really hasn't been, I don't recall seeing a whole lot of Stellar Crown out in the wild until, very recently. So,
No.
I'm really interested to hear your guys' thoughts on the position of Stellar Crown, where it sits in the Scarlet and Violet era. And also, I'm also curious what you guys think of this set once reprints and restocks are over. So it was released in November of 2024, so we're coming up on a year.
Yeah.
So we probably got about 1 year left of potential restocks and reprints. So Logan, I'll let you kind of take it off. Let me know what your thoughts on this set are.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what you said, we haven't really seen a whole lot of Stellar Crown on the market since it released, and just through a couple of months after it where, stock was kind of reduced. And so... which is different than things like, Prismatic. They've been printing Prismatic and having that on the shelves, what feels like trying to every month, which kind of makes sense. Stellar Crown is sort of seen as a weaker set for Scarlet and Violet. I don't know if I buy that, as a whole, but compared to some others, yes, it is a weaker set. But I'm excited for it. I've always liked Stellar Crown. That was the first, I think, set that was kind of around when I started my business. And so that was, diving into, kind of re-understanding Pokemon and diving into sort of what's going on right now. Stellar Crown was high up there. But, I don't know if we'll see, well, I'm going to give it to Kent real quick because I want to get their perspective on singles, especially because kind of what they're seeing, and because there's really just a handful of singles in there that are really sought after. You have the Terapagos, which is like the SIR of the set, but then you have Squirtle, which is the illustration rare, and is Bulbasaur as well. Yeah, so the two starters illustration rares are there as well, and they're like, they're part of that trio where they're like in this cute, I don't know, it's cool vibes, and those three are gonna be sought after for a long time. So those are definitely ones that are gonna be continuously, chased with Stellar Crown. Anyways, Kent, do you want to go over sort of what you think about Stellar Crown and sort of what you're seeing with singles and what you think you might see with singles?
Yeah, so Stellar Crown is interesting because it's really the last set that came out that didn't have a whole lot of demand for it because it was preceded by Surging Sparks. And so Stellar Crown was kind of an underwhelming set for the most part. And people probably have decent sized positions at a really low price. I remember pre-ordering it for less than $100.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
It's something that you could get in on if you were pre-ordering or just buying it really cheap. So I think a lot of people's entry points now aren't going to be what they were back then. The market's entirely different. So that's just how long ago Stellar Crown has come out. And I think you're right with a lot of the singles. They were kind of underwhelming as well. The Squirtle and Bulbasaur, I mean, those are starter Gen 1 Pokemon. I think they'll always have a certain amount of demand. Sure. When I first saw the Terapagos, though, it was one of the first ones to have the like rainbow border.
Yep.
And I thought like, oh, that's gonna be a big
Yep.
card because like it's
I
something
know.
different that they're doing. I was like,
Yeah.
that's gonna be like $100-$200 card, and it came out around $100.
Yep.
But then it's kind of crashed a bit. I think it's like a 40, maybe a
It's
50.
not good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
not
gone
even the
down a
most
lot.
valuable card in Stellar Crown now.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know what Gen Terrapagos is from, but
I think it's Scarlet and Violet. So
yeah,
it's the latest gen.
that might have quite a bit to do with it then.
They with Terrapagos it was a Pokemon that was released in a DLC for the Scarlet and Violet video game, and it was also introduced in the anime. And I think that there are a lot of people, at least when it came out, you had a lot of people that didn't know what the heck it was
Right.
because it didn't come out with Scarlet and Violet. It came out with the DLC, however many months or years later. And then you had people that were arguing that, well, it's in the anime, and kids these days are going to love the anime, and in 15 years that's going to be their chase. I don't know. I don't watch the anime, so I don't know how true that's going to be. But at least that's sort of what the idea was when this set came out, and specifically around the Terrapagos.
Yeah, I think long term it might be a sleeper.
Yeah,
But it was just so overshadowed by Surging Sparks that a lot of those cards are
it
pretty
didn't
low.
have time to really pick up heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
is the trainer Lacey? I think the trainer SIR is Lacey, I think. And so I don't know if you have people that like trainers.
English trainers don't really fetch a whole lot.
No.
That's kind of more of a Japanese
The Japanese side.
Yeah.
Thing.
I don't know, Alex. What do you think, though? What do you think about current reprints and kind of where this is going?
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to highlight is something that Kent mentioned in the last podcast, and that's, especially when it comes to singles, you definitely want to stay away from, the most valuable cards, at release, because they can be so volatile. So, like what Kent was saying, the Terrapagos SIR shot up to over $100, shortly after release, and now we are a year later, and and almost with every set, right, released in the last year, singles have been going up, not down, for the most part. So, yeah, that's something I wanted to highlight. So for viewers wanting to start your own, single business, stay away from new sets because they can be super volatile.
At least when they're first released.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think we'll see reprints. I think we'll see restocks. I think Pokemon knows that this probably isn't one of the more hyped sets, which is can be both a positive and a negative. A negative in the sense that, well, if you really love Stellar Crown, they're you're going to be competing. But it also means that any reprints, it might be less. Compared to other sets, because they're like, okay, we just gotta hit the reprint button once, and we'll call it good because we gotta go on to the rest of these sets, which could mean more scarcity in the long run. I don't know, just food for thought. We still have probably 2-3 months before reprints start really kicking in. So we'll have more to talk about in future episodes.
You hit on something interesting there. Do you guys think that Pokemon sort of picks and chooses what to reprint based on demand? Like, do you think that, I mean, cause that's an interesting point. I mean, Stellar Crown isn't nearly as in demand as Prismatic Evolutions, 151, Surging Sparks. So do you think
100%.
there is a little bit of picking and choosing there?
Yeah, it seems like specialty sets get the reprints first and longer. Like if you look at Crown Zenith, it got printed forever. I mean, it just stopped getting like the Sea and Sky boxes semi-recently. And you look at 151, like there's still supply of that showing up randomly here and there, like poster collections or the Blooming Waters, stuff like that.
Right.
So it seems like specialty sets do get the preference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like Pokemon knows that they only have so much capacity to print. And I think that they understand that like we got to reprint it at least once just because that's how they've always done it. And, there's always going to be people that are new to the hobby between now and when this set was originally released. They want to get in on that action. So I think they'll reprint at least once or twice. But like, I'm sure that in their mind, they're like, we got to print more prismatic though. We got to get the Destined Rivals, and even more Surging Sparks. So we can't have the printers be taken up by Stellar Crown for 3-4 months.
Yeah, exactly. So for our viewers, if you're a fan of Stellar Crown, I'd consider picking it up now because there are so many sets that have so much more demand that need to be reprinted. Who knows if Stellar Crown will get another major reprint. So
yeah, we could see it in and out in like a month and then not see Stellar Crown anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So Logan, another piece of news I wanted to talk to you about, and Kent. So Pokemon Center recently just had pre-orders for Phantasmal Flames.
Yeah.
And there have been a lot of users that have reported errors when they try to check out. It's because of Pokemon Center's anti-bot software. Let me know what you guys think about that, because I experienced those errors for myself as well, and I think one or two of you guys did too.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, I got the error 17 or whatever it was. I was on every day that week, and for some reason I got the error and was unsuccessful in getting any pre-orders for Phantasmal Flames, unfortunately.
And you said for some reason. You don't know the reason. And that's the point, is you have all these people that are not botting. They're just there trying to get their hands on product that they can open. And for some reason, maybe their internet went out halfway through and their phone switched from Wi-Fi to cellular and their IP address changed, and all of a sudden Pokemon flagged that. And it's their anti-bot system has improved greatly, but it's regular fans are suffering and getting caught in the crossfire because that it also encapsulates regular use that humans do have, and so it's a really tough situation to be in. It's like between a rock and a hard place for Pokemon Center.
Yeah, and something interesting, when pre-orders went up for Mega Evolutions and Black Bolt and White Flare, if you guys remember, pre-orders lasted most of the day. You guys remember that? It lasted,
Black Bolt White Flare was really weird.
Yeah, it lasted I don't know, I want to say 6-7 hours.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Phantasmal Flames is such a small set. Theoretically, you would think that
more
Pokemon
cards
will be able to print more.
Yeah.
Right? Because theoretically, you're spending less time printing the actual card, so you can, put it into more product. And in Black Bolt and White Flare, you had, it was basically 2 sets, and it still lasted for 6-7 hours. You would think it would be the opposite. So it's so weird because Pokemon has to know this is a Charizard set. I don't know. Do you guys find that weird as well?
It's weird, and it also the conspiracy, tin hat on, conspiracy theories start to go in my head. The week or two prior, we had the big fiasco with Phantasmal Flames pre-orders where Pokemon Center had them on the back end, but then bots were able to find a way around and be able to purchase items. And so basically, it went out of stock before it even went live. And, the consensus was, okay, well, Pokemon Center is going to cancel these orders. They have to, it wasn't fair. Well, do we know, is there any confirmation that those orders have been canceled? Have we seen, screenshots of orders being canceled, to that extent. Because again, conspiracy theory hat on. Like,
Right.
if they haven't, there's 40,000 units that are gone, from the potential pre-orders that we saw this past week.
Yeah,
So I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean, like looking on Reddit, there is nothing definitive yet that those have been canceled. Kent, I don't know if you've seen anything different.
No, not really. I think one thing though with like the pre-orders for Black Bolt and White Flare, I think that might just speak to the hype for the set compared to Phantasmal Flames and like the amount of time that it was up. Like for me, like I didn't even bother pre-ordering Black and White because it just wasn't a set that I wanted to get. So
Yeah,
maybe that's the
And that's
discrepancy
so
in the
interesting
time
because,
frame.
like, there definitely was a lot of hype around Black Bolt White Flare. At least, like, it felt like it. In the social medias, side of things, it felt like there was a ton of hype.
yeah,
Um, and just the point is Phantasmal Flames might be on a whole other level.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that the hype is significantly less for Black and White than it is for stuff like
Yeah,
Mega, Phantasmal Flames, Prismatic. Like, I think it's a little bit down compared to the other ones. Not that it's
sure.
like the market is so hot right now that it
Yeah,
is
anything's
hype,
gonna.
but I think it is a notch down compared to those other sets.
Sure.
yeah. No, that's definitely possible. And speaking of Pokemon Center, there are reports of a ton of cancellations for Mega Evolutions.
I heard
Have
that.
you guys seen that?
I've heard
I've
it.
seen it, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the other half of Phantasmal Flames, where
Yeah,
Pokemon Center has implemented such significant anti-bot features, that they're now, uh, they're learning and they're figuring out retroactively orders that have been placed by bots in the past. So,
yeah,
just context. Uh, a lot of Mega Evolution orders, pre-orders from back in July, I think, started getting canceled, and it seems like they're all related to bots, automated software that was able to check out pre-orders. So kind of goes hand in hand with what we saw with Phantasmal Flames, where you're struggling to pre-order. Well, now if Pokemon Center messes up, it's like, well, now you got to order. Okay, you got the pre-order. Well, is your order gonna get canceled now? Because they
yeah,
somehow flagged you. I don't know.
yeah.
I think
I
it's
mean,
encouraging
it
though
feels
that
like
they're
they're getting
trying.
better and better with every set. But something I want to hear from Kent and Logan is, what do you think about that strategy of just putting in more anti-bot software? Why not just figure out how to print more? Like why not just print more of it? I mean, does that like make? I mean, because there was a reason why up until a year ago or something that I mean you could buy Pokemon Center ETBs for Brilliant Stars this past January or something.
For 30
Um,
bucks, it felt like.
yeah, like they didn't sell out, and it was because there wasn't a secondary market. Like there wasn't like you couldn't buy it and then resell it for more than what you bought it for. So I've always preached like on my Instagram videos, things like that. It's like, if Pokemon put more time into figuring out how to print more so than, you know, the anti-bot, strategies, I just think that'd be better in the long run. But let me hear what you guys think. Kent, let me start with you.
I mean, I think the anti-bot stuff is definitely the long-term like necessity for them. Like they're gonna have to have anti-bot stuff on their website. Every company that has online websites needs anti-bot
Sure.
processes and things in place. And I mean, I don't think the printing and the anti-bot things are like really impacting each other. Also, like the printing is like going to be a separate part of their business. Like anti-bot stuff is going to be IT and tech, and printing is going to be like manufacturing.
Manufacturing.
Those are
Yeah.
like separate aspects of Pokemon Company. They're not. They can do both. They should do both.
Sure.
I doubt it's a
Yeah.
resource that they can't address both. I'm sure they have the money to be able to make antibot programs and also print more cards. But I think with the printing more cards, it's demand is such a fickle thing, and it's like walking a tightrope. Like you go too far one way, you fall off. You go too far the other way, you fall off. And I think like Pokemon is, contrary to what maybe they've said or popular belief, like I think they're all right having demand be much higher than what they're supplying. It's better than the opposite for them. It's much better than having a ton of supply and not enough demand. That's just
Yeah. No. I agree. I think that's what you want from any business. That's just good business practice. It's just a bummer that it's the largest media franchise in the world, and so many people are fans and want, to enjoy it. Like, it's not like Pokemon cards aren't a necessity. It's a form of entertainment, and when people can't do that, it's just a bummer. So from a business perspective, I get it. From a fan perspective, I want them to print more. I want more.
Yeah.
right.
And going back to sort of the anti-bot thing, I think, I agree with you. I think the long term, again, it goes back to general business practice. There are so many websites these days that need to introduce anti-bot functionality. It's just, we're in a period right now where like I think it's probably the early stages. I know bots have been around for a long time, but we're just now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just saying stuff. But it feels like we're just now seeing a bunch of measures being taken across all of these different, websites to, suppress botting. So it feels like we're kind of in the early stages of it. And it just means that there are more regular people, regular fans and customers that, are getting the short end of the stick because, they're something on their hardware locally, was flagged. And, it's just a bummer because you have people who have no idea about bots. They have no idea about any of this. And all of a sudden, like, they're going on the Pokemon Center because like, oh, this new set is releasing, and they go there and they have no idea about technology or software, how any of it works, networking, things like that. And all of a sudden Pokemon Center just flags them and says, hey, you cannot do this. You cannot hit refresh. You cannot, open and close your browser and then come back. Like, no, you have to reset your IP address. A lot of people don't know what to do in that situation. So it just means that there's a lot of people that are in the dark. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's a rock and a hard place that Pokemon Center is between.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that there needs to be a happy medium. I just would argue that I think we're too far on the other side of the supply shortage spectrum, right? I mean, like, if a casual waits in queue for half an hour, 45 minutes to get product, and then they finally get in, and then they hit refresh maybe one too many times and get blocked. I don't think that's healthy for the hobby. I think that, like, instead of maybe Pokemon Center selling out in a couple hours, why not sell out in a week?
Printed demand.
Right, or printed demand. That's what you and I have talked about a couple times, right? You just print, however many times someone adds, and it won't affect investors in the long term. I mean, once they're done printing in 2 years, sealed product is still going to keep going up, regardless. It's just the only thing it'll affect are, well, it'll affect resellers for new sets, right? Because you can't just you can't just buy it at release and then sell it for double MSRP anymore. That's who it would affect more than anything. So I don't know. It's an interesting topic, and I'm sure we'll all talk about it a few more times.
Yeah. If we had the solution, I mean, I'm sure Pokemon would know the solution. So it's a really weird topic. We could talk about it forever, but Mega Evolution releases this week.
Yeah.
Phantasmal Flames pre-orders were last week, at least on Pokemon Center, and we'll likely see more pre-orders with Target, Walmart, other big box stores over the next week or two. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. And speaking of Phantasmal Flames, we have the Japanese counterpart, Inferno-X. We got some news for that. The 80 main set cards have been revealed. So it's crazy. We are 6 days. We're filming this, on a Saturday. We're 6 days away from the release of Inferno-X, and we still do not know what most of the secret rares are. Like, I don't remember that being a thing with Mega Symphonia and Mega Brave. I remember seeing the secret rares much earlier.
Yeah, I looked back. I looked back on the past couple of sets, and we usually get the main set. So the main set is all of the cards that are not secret rares. So commons, uncommons, rares, double rares, that kind of thing. We usually get that for Japanese sets about 1 week before release. So this checks out. But we do not. We have 3 secret rares as of this morning, and they're all 3 illustration rares, which are cool. But we usually have at least some sort of SAR revealed to kind of. I know Pokemon Center isn't doing this on like they're not the ones leaking it, but to build demand. Now, slightly different because Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia were like the kickoff of a brand new block, and kind of because there were a lot of people that were like, Mega Evolutions aren't going to be a new block. It's going to be Scarlet and Violet. And it wasn't until Pokemon released it there was like, oh yeah, we have confirmation that this is an entirely new separate thing from Scarlet and Violet. And so they had to do some sort of kickoff, some sort of preview trailer, that kind of thing. And that's when they introduced some of the SIR, so like Lucario, Gardevoir, Venusaur. But with this one, like I'm sure Black Bolt White Flare had SARs at this point. So I don't know. Ken, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, with the timing of this release being like, so aren't both of them being released on Friday? So Mega Evolution and then the Inferno-X, they're both coming out on Friday. So I wonder if they're trying to like time it out to where, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy how they're releasing on the same day. Like Mega Evolution and Inferno-X, which are 2 hyped sets, right? Mega Evolution for English and Inferno-X for Japanese. That is going to be one crazy weekend.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, and by the way, we talked a little bit about this in our last podcast, Logan, that's been my only hesitancy with how Inferno-X will be at release, is because Mega Evolution releases on the same day.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like, at least in terms of business, personally, I'm just, because for context, I sell Japanese cards. I'm going to sell Inferno-X. Pre-orders are live, on both mine and Alex's sites. I want to sell out. I want to sell Inferno-X. From a business perspective, I'm just thinking, I hope that Mega Evolutions is as hard to come by as we think it will be, so that at least this weekend, Inferno-X can be the one that people are like, okay, well, if I can't get Mega Evolutions, I might as well go for Inferno-X.
So, guys, moving into our first fan question, we have this from PQuillBew10. If you had $100 to invest in, which card would you invest? So, Kent, I know you are heavily into the singles market. I will let you take on this one.
Yeah, so this is a question that has a lot of nuance to it, and there's a few different things to consider. So the first one is time frame. So when you're investing, are you looking at like a 1-year time horizon or a 10-year? So the amount of time that you're looking to hold this is going to make a huge difference. So, for example, like if you're trying to buy a 151 booster bundle right now, or compare it to something like Destin Rivals booster bundle, well, the 151 is already like out of print. So the risk
Yeah.
on something like that is so much lower if it's just a 1 year time horizon. Like Destined Rivals, there's a world where Destined Rivals gets printed to where it's like MSRP in a year from now.
We're still going to be
Yeah.
seeing Destined Rivals for the next year to 2 years.
Right. So a 1 year time horizon compared to like a 10 year time horizon is entirely different. I think 151's the play regardless, but it does impact it. Another thing is singles or sealed. So the one thing with sealed product is it basically always appreciates if you hold it long enough. Whereas
I don't
singles,
think that there's a single Pokemon product that is sealed that hasn't appreciated at least somewhat in value.
in the market right now, that is true.
Yeah.
But like singles, there's plenty of singles that are way down from the 2020 boom, especially like vintage
Yeah.
cards. So singles, they don't always go up, but a good rule of thumb is the big Pokemon. Pikachu, Charizard, Gengar, sticking with the tried and true Pokemon that are very popular. Those ones, generally speaking, do well over time if you're willing to hold them long enough. And then another point on it is entry price. Entry price is a huge thing. Like if you're getting your product at MSRP and planning on holding it for 3 or 4 years, like you've already realized a lot of your gains. Whereas like if you're gonna go buy a Destined Rivals booster box right now for $400, like is that a good entry point? Like especially not if you're paying taxes too. Like for me, I bought a few Prismatic Evolutions ETBs this last weekend at a card show, and I got them for $90 a piece. They're going for like 110, 120. I thought it was a good entry point, so I grabbed some.
Yeah. And maybe we look back in a year and Destined Rivals has just taken off. And we look back and see like, oh, 400 was a good entry price.
Maybe. Yeah.
But it's sort of that risk tolerance that you have. I think of the investing question sort of like I think about stocks, right? Like I think sealed is a lot more like, a mutual fund where, you're kind of investing into a good amount of categories. It's a safer bet that you can almost kind of guarantee that it's going to go up versus singles. You don't know what you're going to get, but that's also a lot more room for huge growth. If something pops off. Now, it's funny because you kind of can do the whole stock, simile with what Kent said, where Charizard, Pikachu, Gengar are a lot like some of the blue chip stocks that you see, like Walmart, Microsoft, Apple, like Google, like businesses that you can kind of just like understand that if you invest in it, it's riskier. But, those are the ones to invest in rather some, random energy company that's been around for 1 year. I don't know. It's just another kind of way to compare.
There's a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah, and something I wanted to highlight, and Kent, you talked a little bit about it, and that's keeping in mind the 2 year cycle. The Pokemon will print something typically for about 2 years. So Destined Rivals may not be a great entry point right now because it was just released this past May. Versus 151, it's coming to the end of its 2 year cycle. So that one might be a little bit more attractive for investing in, more so than a Destined Rivals or a Stellar Crown or a Surging Sparks, which is still pretty recent. So
okay, to answer the question, Ken, what would you invest in right now for $100?
151.
151 sealed?
Either the Snorlax 052 or 051 promo.
The ETB, Pokemon Center promo?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Or just the sealed products from it.
Okay.
I think it'll be... You look at the prices of what the ETB is at, and it's well over $20 per pack.
Yeah.
It stands to reason that the other products in the 151 lineup, they are eventually going to be over $20 a pack. But right now they're going, I think it's like $10 a pack. So
Yeah.
at some point, like, something's got to give. Either the ETBs are going to come down, or the other products are going to go up and meet the ETB.
Yeah.
Alex, what about you?
That 151 was the first thing that came to mind when I saw this question. Because again, 151 was printed in September of 2023, and we're in September of 2025. So it actually might be, one of the best times to invest into 151. I mean, the best time would have been about a year ago, but it's a really good time.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think
it's a really good time to invest in 151 now, because we may have already seen our last restocks of 151. We may not get any more.
I think for me to go, like, I could pick 151, but then that's boring. So I'm gonna say, I think Prismatic is a move. I think long term Prismatic could be, the set that might be the most expensive simply because of the chase cards. I think we have Umbreon, the Sunbreon, that's the chase of Prismatic. It's the most expensive PSA 10 card in all of Scarlet and Violet. In a PSA 10. I think it's even more expensive now than the Moonbreon. And I think that, the play would be to dollar cost average Prismatic product sealed. Like if you're looking to hold long term, 5-10 years from now. I think that's EVs are always going to be popular. I think, and with pull rates, like the scarcity's there, and there's god packs that you can chase. I think Prismatic's a good bet too in the long run.
Yeah, I would say Prismatic is the number 2 that I would say, especially with the entry price point of it now. Like, if you can get ETBs for under $100, that's probably a good buy.
You're probably fine.
Yeah. And the last one I'll throw out is Paradox Rift. So Paradox Rift was printed in November of 2023. So it's coming to the end. And like, we haven't really seen a huge spike of it yet. I mean, booster boxes, you can still get one for like $250 on TCG Player. It's got a lot of cool hits like the Roaring Moon SIR, the Groudon, the Steelix. It's got some fan favorites. So that's another one that I'll throw out there.
Notice how none of us gave singles as our $100 investment.
The Snorlax.
Oh, the Snorlax promo. Yeah, there's that one too. I think the moral of the story is, you gotta know what you're doing. I would trust Kent over me in terms of single recommendations. So that's why I stick with sealed.
Yeah, same. Logan, I know that you had your big English Pokemon card drop last weekend. I am super excited to hear how that went. And anything new, any challenges, any surprises that came from that?
Yeah. So I had my third English drop last weekend. I built up hype to it over the course of the week prior. I probably got 40 to 50 new newsletter subscribers from it, which is awesome. That's sort of one of the main goals of this, is to continuously build up newsletter subscribers so that, at some point I don't maybe have to rely on, social media algorithm bumping it to people that might want to buy, but I can just send out a newsletter, email. And so that was a positive. I switched the timings up. So before I had done sort of like a 1 to noon drop on Saturdays. And this time I switched it up. I did it in the evening on Saturday. And I think that we had a lot of returning customers, which was cool. Excited about that. But this drop was it was more than double the amount of product that I had from the previous drop, which I was excited for. I was also a little nervous about, because I sold out of the previous drop pretty quickly. But this one, it was going to be sort of a test of like, how big is my audience? I can sell out, this amount, the 1x, but what about 2x? And I sold out of most things, which was cool, which was fun. I sold out of the most hyped things, which makes sense. But there's still some straggling items that have still not sold. Now, to be fair, in hindsight, I think that some of those products, like, it's a lesson learned, is my point. I think that there are some ancillary products that I got that I put up on the site that I was hoping to sell that, maybe I should have known that they weren't going to sell like that. So it's just, sort of revamping my strategy for next month's, drop to see, okay, what products should I maybe stay away from? Because my audience, I at least right now, the audience that I have, I can rely on them for hyped products. But for the stuff that is maybe not so hyped, or, currently, we're seeing a lot of reprints, and reprints do affect the price. And sometimes the price that I put is going to be, I try and always do below market. I always try and do below market price, but that also means for recent reprints that, the price might be closer to market than MSRP. And that's never my goal. But at some point, like, as a business, that has to be the thought process if money is to be made. And I can continue to make even bigger and better drops in the future for people. So I think that was the big takeaway, is that I'm happy with how it went. Most things sold out. For next drop, we're going to, kind of reel it back on some of the products that, maybe it's sticker collections that I hold back on, or maybe it's, big special collection boxes that are not the boxes to go for. And so, like, Journey Together, I have some boxes of that didn't quite sell as well as I thought they would. Stupid Journey Together. But overall, I'm happy with it. I'm content. I think next month will be hopefully bigger, better. And yeah, we'll just continue to grow the newsletter. So yeah, I'm content with it. I'm excited about it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And you mentioned, sometimes like market timing can really affect price. So to kind of give our viewers an example, Twilight Masquerade ETBs were recently reprinted. So before the reprint, they were about 100 in ETB on TCG Player, believe it or not.
Right.
And now they're hovering like less than 70 in ETB.
Yeah.
So
which is a lot closer
like
to
a 30+%
MSRP
drop within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Logan?
No, it's a lot closer to MSRP, which is a good thing for most fans.
Right. Exactly. But sometimes, market timing can really affect price. So another question I had for you, Logan. So, you've been averaging about a drop a month.
Sure.
So, do you think you're going to be able to continue that trajectory? Are you are there any plans to maybe doing more than one drop a month?
I think that's the goal. I think I'm hoping that Inferno-X is able to, again, because we're businesses, this is a business first podcast. I think it's important to be transparent. I hope Inferno-X sells out. I'm hoping I'm able to sell out of more than double the amount that I bought for Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia. That would allow me to kind of have a lot more capital to make sure that next month's drop is even better. And I continue that trend until we get to a point where it doesn't necessarily make sense to do as big of a drop one time a month, but maybe have two smaller drops. Honestly, like, that's sort of how it felt this drop. I think that maybe if I had split up this drop into two, that it wouldn't have felt like, I needed to sell out of this much on just this one weekend. So I think probably October, maybe November. So next month or 2 months from now. Yeah, I think probably splitting it up into two English drops, at least with the current audience that I have, might be the move. What about you though? What are you thinking? Because you're already on, a couple drops a month at this point.
Yeah, my goal is to continue doing at least 2 drops a
Yeah.
month. My goal is, and Logan, you and I have talked a lot about this. I want to make sure I have enough product available for, anyone that's on the site at the drop time to be able to get something cool.
Yeah.
So if all my customers, as long as they're on the site at the drop time, if they're able to get something, that's my goal.
Right.
And Logan, you and I have talked, and I know that's one of your goals too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's gonna be a huge factor in how many drops I can do a month. I want to
Yep.
make sure that everyone can get something.
100%.
So Kent, I really want to shift more to you and your business, because for our viewers watching, Logan and I, our businesses are a lot more different than Kent's. We
Yeah.
sell on Wix and Shopify. Kent sells on eBay and I think some on TCG Player. And our businesses are centered around sealed product. Kent's business is more centered around singles. So, Kent, tell us how your business is going. How many shows have you been attending recently? Tell us some stories of some pickups you've recently gotten. I'll kind of let you take it from here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so selling it's going great. eBay's working out really well for me, just crushing it this last month. August was the best month I've had since I've started selling on eBay. And this
Nice.
month I'm on pace to do about as much as last month as well. So yeah, it's going really well. I'm trying to go to card shows almost every weekend. I live in an area where if I drive a half hour to an hour, I can pretty much go to one every single weekend, which is really nice. This
Nice.
last weekend, I went to 2 in one day. So I went to one in the morning and then went to another one that was a little farther away. So I did do a bit of driving, but it was definitely worth it. I was able to get a lot of good inventory, make some good connections. There was one fellow that I bought like over $500 worth of cards from, and
Nice.
when I met him, he didn't have a whole lot out, and I was
Hmm.
just talking to him, building up some rapport. He was telling me about his kids, how when they were younger, they used to play in tournaments, and now that they were grown, they really weren't into it anymore, and he was just trying to sell off the cards. And a lot of people that are vendors at card shows, they're like, "Oh, like I'll take in trades or they'll buy." This guy was like, "No, I'm just trying to sell," which is great for me because
Green flag.
yeah, I'm just trying to buy. And he was like, "Well, if you're interested in stuff, like here, I got this big old binder," and he sets it out, and it's like the Grail. It's got awesome stuff like first edition Erica's Venusaur, first edition
Wow.
Pichu from Neo Genesis, a whole bunch of other really good cards that he had been holding back basically. So I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, if you want a bunch, like I'll give you a good deal. And I was like, well, I'll take a bunch then. And I only had so much cash on me at the time, so I bought as much as I could. But then he was nice enough to be like, hey, like I'll hold these for you and we can meet up some other time and I'll sell you everything I have basically. So I was able to meet up with him later that week, and it just goes to show that the relationships that you make and build in this industry are really essential and can really pay dividends. Because after having this conversation with this guy for 20 minutes, he was able to open up and show me what he really had and be willing to sell me. So that rapport went a long way.
Yeah, and I really want to highlight that to viewers watching, aspiring to start their own business. Kent didn't even know this guy was selling cards when he first went up to him, and he talked to him for 15, 20 minutes. So the importance of networking, talking to people is, developing relationships is super important. I mean, Kent goes to card shows every weekend, talks to everybody. And that's part of the reason why he was able to secure such a good deal.
And
So Kent, a few more questions I'm really interested in on the single side. Uh, What percentage do you typically look and do you look for a different percentage based on what it is? Like if it's vintage, is it the same thing? Bulk cards. I know the alternate art cards are really hot right now. Can you talk a little bit about what percentages you look for?
Yeah, so for context, selling on eBay, it's about a 13% fee that they charge. And then if you add in what the shipping is, it's usually about like 15% total. So when I'm buying stuff, I have to be under 85%. Otherwise, I'll be losing money. So normally when I'm going to these card shows, I'm trying to get stuff in the 70% range. If it's something I think I can get in grade, I don't have a problem paying higher percent, like 80 to 90%. If I think I can grade it and make some profit on that end. Ideally, though, under 70% is a really good deal for me. Um, for context, like this last purchase I got, it was probably around like 60%. I did buy a really big Yu-Gi-Oh collection this last week as well, and that was at like 50, maybe even less than 50%. It was another vendor, and he sells primarily Pokemon, and he had a huge Yu-Gi-Oh collection from when he was younger and stuff he had acquired, and he didn't have it organized. He was just like, I just need to get rid of it. That way I have the capital for an upcoming show. So he gave me a really good deal on it. So yeah, 50% is really good. 50 to 60% is where you can have some pretty good success long term.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yu-Gi-Oh in particular is something I'm kind of interested in because I know that a lot of us collected Yu-Gi-Oh, in the mid 2000s, and I haven't really heard a lot about it, to be honest, in the last
Yeah,
few
I think
years.
a lot of
So
us.
I know that it's sort of been on a downturn, but how easy is it to move Yu-Gi-Oh cards like on eBay and in card shows compared to Pokemon?
Yeah, I would say that the popularity for Yu-Gi-Oh is maybe like a tenth the size of Pokemon.
Yeah.
There's definitely value to it because there are collectors. Like for me, I grew up with Pokemon, but once I became a teenager, I was like Yu-Gi-Oh was popular and I
Yeah.
left Pokemon to pursue Yu-Gi-Oh collecting. And then like once I got into high school, I kind of stopped doing cards altogether, but coming back into it, I really liked Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's what I sold my first like year or so on eBay, and then I realized Pokemon was way more popular and way more volatile as far as being able to sell it and get a return on your investment. But I'll pick up Yu-Gi-Oh here and there if I think I can get a good percentage on it or it's a really good deal. I'll definitely pick it up still.
It's funny. I was so kind of similar trajectory. Like after college, like I first got back into Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I was watching like YouTube. I was watching like Yu-Gi-Oh pack openings. Um, and then of course, the YouTube algorithm sees that, oh, I'm watching pack openings. Here's Pokemon too. And that was when like I got back into it a couple of years ago. Um, but with regards to Yu-Gi-Oh and selling, it's interesting. I have a friend who actually sells Yu-Gi-Oh decks. And, it's interesting because like he's not selling, he's not selling chase cards. He's not selling you know, near mint, lightly played, anything like that. He's not selling singles. Like he's buying bulk items from a bunch of, people on eBay and TCG Player and then configuring them into decks that he then sells for competitive play. Um, and it's real interesting because I don't really see much of that with Pokemon. There probably is a Pokemon TCG space, where you have dedicated places to buy decks. But there's a lot of interest is what I'm seeing from him is there's a ton of interest around Yu-Gi-Oh decks and playing the TCG competitively.
I mean, they still have tournaments. Like
Yeah, they do.
there's the yearly tournaments for it, and it's
Hmm.
definitely popular. I'm just surprised that there's enough demand that people are buying
I
decks
know. I
specifically for it.
know.
That's cool though.
Yeah, but no, he does well. And like he just opened up his Shopify site and like he's getting more traffic than me. And it's
Wow,
crazy.
that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Now, it's kind of interesting to look back and see, which trading card games have really stood the test of time. Haven't been that many of them. So,
Right.
seeing Yu-Gi-Oh still being, at least, in demand is kind of cool. So Kent, a topic I really wanted to get into that I'm particularly interested in, and this is kind of wreaking havoc on the hobby, particularly with new collectors, and that's fake Pokemon cards. So I wanted to kind of get your experience on, first of all, what do you look for if when identifying fake Pokemon cards, and how much do you see that like on Facebook Marketplace where you might expect it to happen more often versus like at card shows
Yeah,
where
it's
hopefully
definitely
you'd expect it to happen very little.
it's
So I'll let you
definitely
take it
something that
there.
shows up.
Yeah.
So I have experiences online dealing with fake cards and at shows. Um, it's kind of like money. They say to study the real thing so you know the fakes. With Pokemon cards, it's really tough because there's a lot of different eras. So just knowing what the real cards look like, what the color is, what the text, the font looks like, but most importantly, how it feels. So a lot of the newer cards have a texture to them. The texture is almost always the giveaway. So like the secret rares and SIRs, they all have a texture to them. And I bought a collection from Facebook. It was a couple $100, and it was a bunch of rainbow secret rares. And this was a couple years ago, and I got it, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like all these secret rare cards, like I got them for a good price. Like I can resell them all together on eBay." So I put them in a binder, and I sold them to somebody, and they got them, and they're like, "Yo, these are all fake cards." And I was just like, "Oh no!" Like I didn't even think that they would be fake because they looked real. The pictures are the exact same. So they sent them back. I refunded them, and luckily I was able to get my refund from Facebook. But it was a stressful process to say the least. But I mean, that's how you find out what's real and
Get
what's
burned a
fake.
couple
Sometimes,
times.
yeah, if you get burned, you learn your lesson. So from there, I learned like, okay, you gotta check the texture. And one thing that's tough with a lot of the textures on them is they have the texture printed on it. So like if you just look at the card in the top loader and you don't take it out and look at it, it looks like it's textured. But once you pull it out of the top loader in the sleeve and you feel it, it's like, oh, that's just the image. It's not actually textured. So that's kind of a smaller, nuanced thing.
For fake cards, right?
Yeah, for fake
Because
cards.
I was gonna
Also,
say, like that you said the texture's almost always a good way to tell. And, like I'm on Reddit all the time, and I know that there's an entire subreddit now for is my Pokemon card fake? So for those watching, like you can go post your Pokemon cards on that subreddit, and people that are way smarter than all three of us are gonna be able to tell if it's fake or not. But you'll just see that there are cards there that are getting so much better in terms of being like scammed because they look so much more real than years prior where there's texture. It almost feels like there's texture. The hollow pattern is a little bit better than what it used to be. And what's tough for me is when you don't have that experience, but you at least kind of know, like literally me, like I know a lot about Pokemon, but I don't have as much experience across all these different eras because I wasn't into Pokemon then, and so I don't know much about like the GX era, like in terms of feeling the cards or how they look. But Pokemon, uh, like they've redone their printing procedures over the decades, and there are tells right now in the Scarlet and Violet and Mega Blocks that it's like, oh well, the hollow pattern looks like this, and it's rainbow here, and it's just fake. you can just immediately tell. But if you go back to certain generations, well, that holo pattern that is now fake is what Pokemon was pretty close to doing, however many years ago. I don't know. It's just an example. And so kind of what Kent was saying, I think it's so important if you're in the singles business is to have exposure to all of these different eras and the different cards there, because, without that, there are, especially when you get, into more vintage stuff, vintage meaning 10, 15 years ago, which is still like EX, stuff. Without that experience, it's like, you might be thinking that something's fake or something's real when it actually is the reverse. Anyways, just wanted to call that out, that fakes are getting good, and it really requires you to kind of be on your game across all different years of Pokemon.
Yeah, and another thing is that it happens to the best of us. Like, you can have the experience, and maybe you're just in a time crunch and you're trying to go through cards quickly and appraise stuff. It happens to the best of us. So not to beat yourself up over it too much, and just learn from the mistakes, and yeah, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and for viewers watching, and we've talked about this before, but especially for new collectors, we recommend buying from an established seller, okay? Because not only are they going to know what to look for, they're not going to damage their reputation by trying to sell something and pass it off as being real when it's fake. That's number one. And number two, buy stuff with PayPal goods and services, TCG Player, eBay, okay? Marketplaces that are going to have your back if the cards turn out to be fake. So like Kent was saying, he bought them on the Facebook marketplace. Facebook had his back. They refunded his money. And now if he would have used Zelle or PayPal friends and family, something like that, then that wouldn't have been the case. So I want to stress that importance of whenever you buy something, make sure you're covered.
Now, I know we're coming up on time. This episode flew by. Before we leave, though, I want to kind of get some insight into Kent and his business and sort of what's next. So we talked to you last month. This was before, it was kind of in the middle of, your best month, and you're kind of on track to do that this month. What happens after this month? Any plans to change anything? Even more card shows? How much more time do you anticipate putting into the business? Just kind of curious what that trajectory looks like for, 2 months of, increased growth for, a singles eBay and TCG business.
Yeah. So one thing with being the one person running your business is that your personal life definitely has a lot of impact on what you can do in your business. So for me, my fourth child is due at the end of the month. So
congrats.
The amount of time that I have to allocate is probably going to be significantly different. So I'll be able to do online and listing and selling, but how much time am I going to have to go sourcing?
Bring the baby. Just kidding.
Strap them to me and
get the backpack going.
Yeah.
Get discounts.
Any freebies for my kid?
Yeah. I'm doing a trade-up challenge for my baby.
Yeah, we're doing a trade-up challenge.
Right. But yeah, so running a business and being the sole proprietor, sometimes your personal life does come in there, and that's okay. The staying consistent and just trying to continue to grow and do your thing on your business is it doesn't always have to be the next month is better, next month is bigger.
Sure.
There's an ebb and a flow to business, and for me, I think just trying to be consistent with listing and selling stuff. I'm trying to acquire as much inventory as possible now. That way I have a constant backlog of stuff I can be listing. I usually try to list at least 10 items on eBay a day. That's kind of what they say to get a decent amount of traffic. You want to constantly be listing. So I try to do at least 10 items a day. And over the last week, I've purchased thousands of cards. So I have
Oh,
a
wow.
decent
So you are
backlog.
preparing for it.
Yeah,
Got it.
definitely. I've definitely stocked up, bought some big binders, and been going to card shows a lot this month. That way I have hopefully enough to last me like a month or so. And yeah.
Sweet. Okay. No, that makes sense. So, and that's, I mean, that's sort of, a lesson to be learned for other businesses. Like, yeah, like personal stuff, this is, we're humans, it's part of life. And especially, um, when you're just starting out, it's like things come and go that you're not really, aware of that could happen, that might slow your business down or might slow, sort of growth or whatever it may be. That's just normal. But like the lessons to be learned is like just to prepare for it.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the biggest takeaway is like, yeah, you're not going to as many card shows, but like enough and like have anticipated what the next month or two will look like based off of the past 2 months that like you're still going to be killing it even though you're not going to card shows. So that's cool. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. And staying consistent, maybe, sometimes that doesn't mean you're posting a video every single day. Maybe that doesn't mean you're going to a card show every single weekend. Maybe it means you have to post once a week for a while. Maybe that means you go to a card show every other week. So I want to stress you know, I think it's important to stay consistent, but when life happens, it's okay to maybe, be a little bit less frequent with your posting or you're going to your card shows or listing things on eBay. But as long as you are, kind of sort of keeping the lights on, right? I think that's what's most important. Now, Kent, one more question I really wanted to ask you, and you've talked a little bit about it, is so with your business, do you have any plans on scaling? I know that that's not your top priority right now. You just mentioned your fourth baby is due at the end of the month. Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
But let's say a year down the road, right, where maybe things get a little bit more normal. I mean, do you have any? Because kind of an outside, someone outside looking in, it feels like it starts and ends with you almost, because it's you that has to go to these card shows. It's you that has to feel the texture of these cards, making sure that they're real. It's you listing each one individually on eBay. Um, and maybe that's okay with you. Like maybe that's like however big you can get with just doing that is okay. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely don't see me ever like hiring any people to help me out or anything like that. Maybe once my kids get old enough, I can rope them into to help me.
That's what they're for, right?
My oldest son,
Yeah.
he's interested in Pokemon, but he's still too young to actually like help me or be beneficial. But maybe I can have him tag along with me at some point, and
Yeah.
he can get some freebies at card shows. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But
Yeah, but I
yeah.
guess my question is, what do other businesses do where if they want to grow and they're mainly in singles, like what do those guys do exactly?
Like
Yeah,
advice for people that are, heading towards where you're at right now or similar to where you're at. Like, maybe that's not what your goal is, but like you may have ideas about what others could do and give advice there.
Yeah, I think so. Identifying your limiting factor in your business and addressing that is going to be like the first step. And when you perceive the limiting factor as your time, trying to save yourself time, and at some point, you're going to have to outsource certain tasks just from a time perspective. So once you start to be like, I just don't have enough time to do all these things, and you think you can bring someone else in to handle some of those things, I think that's the point when you start to look for outside help. So yeah, that's just my thought on But
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, singles are a whole other beast, in my head. I think like there's so much reward for it, but there's also so much effort and time that you put into it. Um, yeah, I really I'm really envious that, you're able to find that balance and
Yeah.
see the success that you've seen.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like, so hypothetically, if you wanted to grow by 2 or 3x, and we're talking hypothetically, how would you get more cards? Is it just a matter of attending more card shows? Is
I
that
think
the bulk of it?
I think the social media content would be another route for me to go, just
Sure.
because like right now, like I am going out and I am having to find people to source all my inventory, whereas a lot of these people who have like YouTube followings or Instagram followings, the deals are coming to them. People
Right.
are reaching out and saying like, "Hey, like I have this collection. Would you be interested in buying it from me?" And once you have like people coming to you with the deals, sourcing becomes significantly easier. Whereas like for most people starting, sourcing can be the biggest hurdle. And learning the skills on like how to find stuff. But if you have a good social media presence and you build up some trust and have a good audience, they'll reach out to you when they have stuff they want to sell.
Like I just piggybacking off of that, like there are Pokemon influencers and creators that I follow, and are in the Pokemon space, and they'll post on their stories like, "Oh, buying collections for 90%," or buying, like, or they're a rip and shipper, and it's like, "Oh, buying English packs for these amounts,"
Yeah.
and it's like, they'll get product just because people will message them and be like, "Yeah, I'll sell to you for this amount. Like I saw this post from you. I will do it." It's like
Yeah.
easy.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're coming up on time here, but last thing I want to say is, for viewers watching, this takes time. You have to know, okay, what's the difference of what this card value is between near mint and lightly played. Sometimes you can't look up every single card. Sometimes you have to kind of, like Kent was saying earlier, with the guy he met at the card show. He kind of, had to go with his gut and buy the binder. He knew of a few of the hits. But you gotta know that. You gotta know the difference between a real and a fake Pokemon card. You gotta know, um, you gotta know that new sets are volatile, and those can swing heavily one way or the other. You have to learn how to diversify. You buy some vintage, buy some graded cards, buy some modern. So all of that takes time, and I want to make sure that our viewers, I want to make sure that I put that out there for the viewers.
Time and
Definitely.
experience.
Yep. Experience is definitely super important. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Poke Table podcast. Please make sure you like and subscribe. I'm Alex with Poke Legends TCG.
Yeah, and I'm Logan from Zippy's Card Corner. Kent, I'll leave you to it.
Kent with Corsbie Gaming. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for joining us. I think,
Yeah.
it's always been good to kind of get your perspective on the singles market, as well as just, chit-chatting. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.